Right now, somewhere in your life, there is a feeling running the show. You may not even notice it. It's quiet. It's familiar. It feels like you. But it isn't you. It's chemistry. It's a spike. It's a wave that rolled in, and it will roll out, whether you act on it or not. Here's the problem. Most people treat every emotional surge like it's information about the world. They feel angry, so they assume someone did something wrong. They feel anxious, so they assume something bad is coming. They feel hurt, so they assume they were betrayed. But a feeling is not proof. A feeling is not evidence. A feeling is just a feeling. Say that back to yourself. A feeling is just a feeling. The cold mind does not ask, how do I feel about this? The cold mind asks a much harder, much colder question. Is this a fact, or is this just a feeling? That question is the foundation. Everything else in this book is built on top of it. If you only take one thing from these next 2 hours, take this question and ask it before you speak, before you text, before you decide. Let's make this real. A CEO is sitting at her desk at 11 p.m. An email comes in from a major client. It's furious, accusatory, unfair even. Her chest tightens. Her face goes hot. Every part of her wants to fire back a response, defend herself, correct the record, put this person in their place. Right now, that's the feeling talking. The feeling says, respond now. The feeling says, defend yourself. The feeling says, this cannot wait until morning. But here's what the cold mind knows. That feeling will still be there in the morning, except by morning, it will be smaller, quieter, more manageable. So she closes the laptop. She goes to bed, and 12 hours later, she reads the email again, not through the lens of midnight anger, but through the lens of a rested mind. And what does she send? 3 sentences. Calm, direct, professional. The conflict that felt like a 5-alarm fire the night before is resolved in under a minute the next day, with words that cost her nothing and gained her everything. That's the difference between a hot mind and a cold mind. The hot mind reacts to the feeling. The cold mind waits for the feeling to pass and then acts on the facts. You have a choice here. Every single time a feeling rises up, anger, fear, jealousy, hurt, you have a choice. You can follow it, or you can feel it and let it pass. That's the key. Not suppressing it, not pretending it isn't there. Feeling it and not following it. Say it with me, because you're going to hear this again and again throughout this book. Feel it. Don't follow it. Feel the anger. Don't follow it into the email. Feel the fear. Don't follow it into the canceled plans. Feel the jealousy. Don't follow it into the message you'll regret. Feel it. Don't follow it. Here's what most people get wrong. They think emotional control means not feeling. It doesn't. You are not a robot. You are not supposed to be numb to your own life. The goal is not to kill the feeling. The goal is to stop the feeling from making your decisions for you. Think of your emotions as visitors. They knock on the door, they come in, they sit down. Sometimes they're loud. Sometimes they overstay their welcome. But they are visitors. They do not own the house. They do not get to rearrange the furniture. They do not get to make decisions about your life. That's your job. That's the homeowner's job. And you are the homeowner. The moment you hand the visitor the keys, the moment you let the anger send the text, let the fear cancel the plan, let the hurt write the resignation letter in all caps, you've already lost. Not because the world punished you, because you handed over control of your own life to something that was never built to run it. So here is your first instruction. Starting today, every time you feel a strong emotional pull toward an action, speaking, texting, quitting, confronting, deciding, pause and ask, is this a fact, or is this just a feeling? If it's a feeling, and it almost always is, you don't have to act on it. You don't need to suppress it either. Just notice it. Name it. This is anger. This is fear. This is hurt. And then ask yourself, what would I do right now if I weren't feeling this? That answer, that's the cold mind talking. That's the version of you that wins. Feel it. Don't follow it. Make that your rule. Not just today, every day, for the rest of this book, and for the rest of your life. Because here's the truth. Your feelings are not facts. They never were. And the moment you stop treating them like facts is the moment you take your power back. You've learned to separate what you feel from what is true. Now it's time to learn the single highest leverage skill in this entire book. The space between the moment something happens and the moment you respond. Chapter 2. The pause that changes everything. Chapter 2. The pause that changes everything. There is a gap. A small, invisible gap that exists between the moment something happens to you and the moment you respond to it. Most people don't even know this gap exists. They live as if the response is automatic, as if the insult and the comeback are the same event, as if the bad news and the panic are inseparable. They are not the same event. They are two separate events. And in that gap between them, that's where your entire life gets decided. Most people's gap is measured in milliseconds. Someone says something cutting, and the response is already out of their mouth before they've even processed what was said. Someone sends a disrespectful message, and the reply is typed and sent before the first wave of anger has even crested. That's not strength. That's not even a personality trait. That's just an untrained reflex. The cold mind trains that reflex. The cold mind takes a gap that used to be milliseconds and stretches it into seconds, into minutes, into hours, sometimes into days. And here is the rule, plain and simple. The longer the pause, the more power you keep. Let that sink in. The longer the pause, the more power you keep. Let's make this real. A man finds out his business partner has been lying about the numbers, cooking the books, hiding losses. The betrayal hits him like a punch to the chest. Every cell in his body wants to do one thing. Call him. Right now. Scream. Confront. Demand answers. Make him feel the same gut punch he's feeling. That's the untrained reflex talking. That's milliseconds. But here's what he does instead. He closes his laptop. He doesn't say a word. He puts on his shoes, and he walks. 20 minutes. 30 minutes. He doesn't think about what to say. He just walks and lets the wave move through him. By the time he gets home, something has changed. Not the betrayal. That's still real, still serious. What's changed is him. The heat is gone. And in its place is something far more dangerous to the person who lied to him. Clarity. Now, instead of a screaming match that reveals every card in his hand, he has a plan. He knows exactly what he's going to say, exactly what he's going to ask for, exactly what his next move is, regardless of how the conversation goes. His words, when he finally speaks them, aren't grenades thrown in anger. They're weapons, aimed with precision. That's the power of the pause. Here's the principle, and I want you to remember this every single time you feel the urge to react instantly. Whoever reacts first, loses first. Whoever reacts first, loses first. In an argument, whoever throws the first insult has already shown their hand. They've shown they can be provoked. They've shown exactly which buttons work. In a negotiation, whoever speaks first after a silence, whoever fills the gap out of discomfort, whoever can't sit with the tension, that person just gave away leverage they didn't have to give away. In a betrayal, whoever reacts in the heat of the moment reveals their entire strategy, their entire emotional state, in real time, to the person who least deserves that information. Whoever reacts first, loses first. Say it again. Whoever reacts first, loses first. You have a choice. Every time something happens, good news, bad news, an insult, an opportunity, a threat, you have a choice about when you respond. Not if, when. And that choice is more powerful than almost anything else available to you. It's not about suppressing your reaction. It's about delaying it, on purpose, every time, until your reaction is a decision, not a reflex. So here's your instruction for this chapter. The next time something triggers you, and it will happen today, or tomorrow, or this week, I want you to do one specific thing. Before you respond, I want you to insert a pause. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be hours. Start with this. Take one breath. Just one. In and out. Slowly. That one breath is enough to break the automatic chain. That one breath is the difference between the untrained reflex and the cold mind. And once you've mastered the single breath, extend it. The walk around the block. The let me think about it and get back to you. The night of sleep before you respond to the email. The pause is not weakness. The pause is not avoidance. The pause is where your power lives. Every time you skip it, you hand your power to whoever or whatever triggered you. Every time you use it, you keep it for yourself. You've learned to create space between what happens and how you respond. But there's another habit quietly draining your power, one most people do every single day without even realizing it. It's the habit of justifying yourself to people who never earned the right to an explanation. Chapter 3. Stop explaining yourself. Chapter 3. Stop explaining yourself. I want you to think about the last time you explained yourself. Not just answered a question, explained. defended a decision, justified a choice, gave someone a reason for something you did or didn't do. Now ask yourself, did they need that explanation? Or did you need to give it? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of the time, the explanation wasn't for them. It was for you. It was to manage their reaction. It was to soften their opinion of you. It was to make sure they didn't think badly of you, even for a moment. And every single time you do that, every single time you over-explain a decision that was yours to make, you are quietly telling the world something. I need your approval before I can feel okay about this. That's the trap. And it's one of the most common traps there is. The cold mind operates differently. The cold mind makes a decision and moves on. Not rudely, not coldly, in the cruel sense. Just efficiently, without the emotional tax of needing everyone to understand, agree, or approve. Here's a phrase I want you to remember, because we're going to come back to it again and again. Explaining is begging. Explaining is begging. Every time you give someone 3 paragraphs of justification for a decision they have no authority over, you are, whether you realize it or not, begging for their approval. Begging them not to be upset with you. Begging them to validate a choice that was never theirs to validate. Let's make this real. A woman has been working at a job that's been quietly destroying her for 2 years. Toxic management, no growth, constant disrespect. She finally decides to leave. And here's what most people would do. They'd write a resignation letter explaining everything. The reasons, the frustrations, the history, maybe even hoping, somewhere deep down, that someone will read it and say, "You're right. I'm sorry. Please stay." She doesn't do that. Her resignation letter is 2 sentences. I am resigning from my position, effective in 2 weeks. Thank you for the opportunity. That's it. And here's what happens next, and this is the part that matters. Her former coworkers spend weeks speculating. Why did she really leave? Did something happen? I heard she was upset about. They build theories. They demand reasons, even though she's already gone. They feel almost entitled to her story. She owes them nothing, and she gives them nothing. Now, I want you to notice something. Her silence didn't make her look weak, or rude, or mysterious in a bad way. Her silence made her powerful. Because the moment you stop explaining, you stop giving people ammunition. You stop giving them a story to pick apart. You stop giving them a reason to feel like they have a say in your life. It's not about being secretive. It's about discipline. The discipline of letting your decisions stand on their own, without needing anyone's stamp of approval. You have a choice every time you're about to explain yourself. You can ask, does this person have actual authority over this decision? Do they need this information to do their job, to keep us safe, to function as a team? If yes, fine, give them what's relevant. But if the honest answer is, no, I just don't want them to be upset with me, that's not communication. That's begging. And you don't need their permission. You don't need their permission to quit the job. You don't need their permission to end the relationship. You don't need their permission to change your mind, change your plans, change your mood, change your direction. You are allowed to simply do it. Here's your instruction for this chapter. For the next week, I want you to notice every single time you start to explain a personal decision to someone who has no real stake in it. Notice it, and then cut it short. Not rudely, just shorter. Instead of 3 paragraphs, give 3 sentences. Instead of 3 sentences, give 1. Instead of 1, sometimes, give none at all, and just let the decision speak for itself. At first, this will feel uncomfortable. It will feel like you're being rude, or cold, or like you're hiding something. You're not. You're simply withdrawing from a transaction you never needed to be part of. The transaction where your peace of mind is held hostage by other people's opinions. Explaining is begging. Say it one more time. Explaining is begging. The less you explain, the less power other people have over how you feel about your own choices. That's the discipline. Not isolation, liberation. You've learned that silence is not weakness, and explanations are not owed. But there's a deeper trap waiting. One that disguises itself as responsibility, as carefulness, as being thorough. It's the trap of overthinking. And it might be the most expensive habit you have. Chapter 4. The cost of living in your head. Chapter 4. The cost of living in your head. There's a version of fear that doesn't feel like fear. It doesn't make your heart race. It doesn't make your palms sweat. In fact, it often feels like the opposite of fear. It feels like responsibility. It feels like diligence. It feels like being smart. It's called overthinking, and it is one of the most expensive habits a human being can have. Here's why it's so dangerous. Because it disguises itself. When you're overthinking, you don't feel like you're avoiding a decision. You feel like you're preparing for one. I just need a little more information. I just need to think it through one more time. I want to be thorough. It sounds responsible. It sounds careful. But strip away the language and look at what's actually happening. You are not deciding. And every day you don't decide, the world keeps moving without you. The cold mind understands something most people never learn. Overthinking is not the opposite of emotion. Overthinking is emotion. Specifically, it's fear wearing the costume of thoroughness. Say that with me. It's not about being thorough. It's about being honest with yourself about what's actually happening when you can't make a decision. Here's the principle the cold mind operates by. You don't need 100% of the information to make a good decision. You need about 80%. The other 20%, the part you're waiting for, very often doesn't exist. It's not information. It's reassurance. And reassurance isn't something the world owes you before you're allowed to act. Let's make this real. Two investors are looking at the exact same opportunity. Same numbers. Same risks. Same potential. The first investor wants to be careful, smart, responsible. So he does more research. He reads more reports. He talks to more people. He runs more scenarios. 6 months go by. He's still doing more research. And then, the window closes. The opportunity is gone. Someone else took it. And he tells himself, well, it's good that I was careful. Who knows what could have gone wrong? The second investor looks at the same opportunity. Spends 6 days reviewing it, not 6 months. Sees the risk clearly. Doesn't pretend the risk isn't there. And commits. 6 days versus 6 months. Same information, essentially. Wildly different outcomes. Now, here's the part people get wrong. The first investor wasn't smarter. He wasn't more careful in any way that mattered. He was more afraid, and he called it diligence. The second investor wasn't reckless. He simply recognized that done is colder than perfect. Done is colder than perfect. Say it again, done is colder than perfect. Cold here doesn't mean careless. It means clear. It means making the decision your circumstances actually call for, instead of the decision that would require zero risk, because that decision doesn't exist. There is no version of any meaningful choice in your life that comes with a guarantee. Waiting for that guarantee isn't strategy. It's paralysis with a nicer name. You have a choice every time you catch yourself needing more time to think. You can ask yourself one question. Am I missing real, actionable information? Or am I just scared and looking for permission to delay? Almost every time, if you're honest, it's the second one. Here's your instruction for this chapter. The next time you catch yourself stuck on a decision about your job, a relationship, a move, a purchase, anything, I want you to do something specific. Set a deadline. A real one. Not soon. Not when I feel ready. A date. A time. And when that deadline arrives, you decide, with whatever information you have at that point, even if it doesn't feel like enough. Especially if it doesn't feel like enough. Because here's what you'll discover. The feeling of not enough information rarely goes away with more time. It just gets replaced by new doubts, new what-ifs, new reasons to wait a little longer. The only thing that actually ends it is a decision. It's not about having all the answers. It's about being willing to move without them. That's the discipline. Living in your head feels safe. It is not safe. It is simply slow, expensive, and invisible, until one day, the opportunity is gone, and all that's left is the explanation you give yourself for why you waited. Done is colder than perfect. Make the call, then move. You've learned to stop living in your head and start acting on enough information. But even after you act, even after you make the decision, there's still a trap waiting on the other side. It's the trap of needing the outcome to go a certain way, and that need will cost you more than the decision ever did. Chapter 5. Detach from the outcome. Chapter 5. Detach from the outcome. Here's a question that will change how you operate for the rest of your life. What happens to you, emotionally, if this doesn't work out? If the answer is, I'll be disappointed, but I'll be fine, good, you're in a strong position. But if the answer is closer to, I don't know what I'll do, or I can't even think about that, or I just need this to work, then I need to tell you something important. You've already lost some of your power. Not because of what might happen, because of what you've already handed over, your emotional stability, to something you don't control. This is one of the most important distinctions in this entire book, so listen closely. There is a difference between wanting something and needing something. Wanting something means, I would like this outcome, I'm working toward it, and if it doesn't happen, I will be okay. Needing something means, my sense of okayness is tied to this outcome. If it doesn't happen, some part of me breaks. The cold mind wants things. Plenty of things. Big things, even. But the cold mind does not need things, and that distinction changes everything about how you show up. Here's the principle. Want it. Don't need it. Want it. Don't need it. Let's make this real. Picture two salesmen, both pitching the exact same product to the exact same kind of client. The first salesman needs this sale. He's behind on quota. He's worried about his job. And even though he tries to hide it, that desperation leaks into everything. His tone, his pacing, the way he pushes a little too hard at the end, the way he seems just slightly too eager to agree to whatever the client wants. The client can feel it. Maybe not consciously, but they feel it. And it makes them hesitant. Desperation is not magnetic. It's repellent. The second salesman wants this sale. He'd genuinely like to close it. But if it doesn't happen, he's fine. There's another client tomorrow, another opportunity next week. And that calm, that lack of desperation, comes through in everything he does. He's not pushing. He's not over-explaining. He's just present, confident, unshaken. Same product, same pitch, almost word for word. But the second salesman closes more deals. Consistently. Why? Because need is the leash and want is the freedom. Need is the leash. Want is the freedom. Say that again. Need is the leash. Want is the freedom. This applies far beyond sales. Think about relationships. The person who needs the relationship to work, who needs the other person's approval, attention, validation, often ends up gripping too tightly, which pushes people away. The person who wants a good relationship, but doesn't need any one person to provide their entire sense of worth, that person is calmer, steadier, and ironically, far more attractive to be around. Think about money. The person who needs this paycheck, this client, this deal, they make decisions from scarcity, fear, and panic. The person who wants more, but isn't desperate for it, they make decisions from strategy, patience, and leverage. Now, I need to be clear about something, because this is where people get this wrong. Detaching from the outcome does not mean you stop trying. It does not mean you do less work, care less, or show up half-effort with a shrug, saying, well, I'm detached. That's not detachment. That's just disguised laziness. The cold mind brings full effort and zero attachment. You do the work completely. You prepare. You show up. You give everything you have to give. And then, you let go of the result. Not because you don't care. Because your emotional stability cannot be a hostage to something you don't fully control. This isn't apathy. It's armor. You have a choice. Before any major effort, a pitch, a conversation, an application, an attempt, you can ask yourself, am I bringing my full effort here? And am I prepared to be okay, no matter what happens after? If the answer to both is yes, you're in the cold mind. If the answer to the second one is no, that's where the work is. Not in trying harder, in needing less. Here's your instruction for this chapter. The next time you're heading into something that matters to you, a conversation, a meeting, a decision whose outcome is out of your hands, I want you to say this to yourself, quietly, before you go in. I want this. I don't need this. I'll do my best, and either way, I'll be fine. Say it until you believe it. Because the moment you believe it, your entire presence changes. People feel it. Opportunities respond to it. It's not about caring less. It's about needing less. That's the discipline. You've learned to separate what you want from what you think you need. But there's something else competing for your attention every single day. Something most people respond to constantly, without ever asking if it deserves a response at all. Chapter 6. Numb the noise, sharpen the signal. Chapter 6. Numb the noise, sharpen the signal. Take a moment and think about your last 24 hours. How many things did you react to? Not respond to thoughtfully, react to. A notification, a comment, a look someone gave you, a tone in someone's message, a headline, an opinion online that had absolutely nothing to do with your life. Now ask yourself, out of all of those reactions, how many of them actually mattered? How many of them moved your life forward in any way at all? For most people, the honest answer is, almost none of them. Here's what's happening. Most people are walking around in a state of constant low-grade reaction. Everything gets a response. Everything gets attention. Every ping, every comment, every slight gets a piece of their focus. And piece by piece, their attention gets diluted until there's nothing left for the things that actually matter. The cold mind operates completely differently. The cold mind builds a filter. And the filter is simple. Not everything gets a reaction. Not everything gets a reaction. Say it again. Not everything gets a reaction. This isn't about becoming numb to life. It's about becoming selectively numb to the noise, so that you remain fully sensitive to the signal. Because here's the truth. Noise and signal are competing for the exact same resource, your attention. And attention is not unlimited. Every reaction you give to something that doesn't matter is attention you're stealing from something that does. Let's make this real. Picture an executive who receives 100 emails a day. 100. If she treated every single one as urgent, as something requiring an immediate emotional response, she would spend her entire day reacting and never actually working. So here's what she does instead. She scans them. And out of those 100 emails, she identifies the 5, sometimes fewer, that actually move the business forward. Decisions that need to be made. Problems that need her specific judgment. Opportunities that won't wait. Those 5 get her full attention. The other 95? Filed, delegated, or ignored entirely. People around her sometimes call her cold. She doesn't respond to half of what I send her. She seems detached from the day-to-day stuff. But here's the thing. Her results don't agree with that assessment. Her results call her effective. Because she's not spending her finite attention reacting to everything. She's spending it on the things that actually change outcomes. This same principle applies to your life. And I want you to think about it beyond email. Someone gives you an annoyed look. Does that deserve a reaction? Probably not. Someone leaves a critical comment online about something you posted. Does that deserve a reaction? Almost never. A friend mentions, in passing, an opinion about your life choices that you didn't ask for. Does that deserve a reaction? Rarely. Someone is rude to you in a way that costs you nothing. A stranger, a one-time interaction, something with zero ongoing relationship attached. Does that deserve a reaction? No. Not everything gets a reaction. It's not about being numb to life. It's about being deliberate with your attention, because your attention is the most valuable resource you have. And right now, you're probably giving most of it away for free to things that will be forgotten by tomorrow. Here's the test the cold mind applies before reacting to anything. If I respond to this, what changes? And if I don't respond, what changes? If the honest answer to both questions is nothing, then you have your answer. Let it go. Not because you're weak, or you don't care, or you're avoiding conflict. Because you're choosing where your power goes, instead of leaking it out in 1,000 tiny directions every single day. You have a choice every single time something tries to grab your attention. You can give it your reaction, your time, your energy, your emotional bandwidth, or you can let it pass by, unacknowledged, and save that bandwidth for something that actually deserves it. Here's your instruction for this chapter. For the next 24 hours, before reacting to anything, a message, a comment, a tone, a piece of news, I want you to pause and ask, does this deserve my reaction? Not, could I react to this? Of course you could. The question is whether it deserves it. Most of the time, the honest answer will be no. And every time the answer is no, and you let it pass, you keep that energy for yourself. That's the discipline. Not coldness for its own sake. Conservation. Conserving your attention so that when something does deserve your full presence, you have it to give. You've learned to filter out the noise so the signal can come through clearly. But there's a deeper question underneath all of this. One about why so much of that noise feels important in the first place. And the answer has to do with something almost everyone is quietly chasing, often without realizing it.